What's going on, everyone? Trav here with Chaotic Strategies, and I'm coming at you with another how to play video. In this video, I'm going to be teaching you guys how to play a pendulum deck. If you guys are new to the channel, please be sure to hit that subscribe button and that little notification bell so that way you guys are always notified when I post new videos. Pendulum is very unique in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! There's a lot of things that you can do with these decks. I mean, some of these decks can just be insane. The deck that I'm going to be showcasing to you guys tonight on how to play Pendulums is going to be my Endymion deck. Pretty much almost pure spellcaster deck. It's a lot of fun, and I'm just going to be kind of going over all the different things that you can do with a Pendulum deck kind of set up like this. So, without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started on how to play Pendulums in Yu-Gi-Oh! The trading card game. So as you can see, I kind of have a board completely mocked up, ready to go here. We have our main deck, we have our extra deck, we have a card in our field spell zone. So field spell zone is always going to be above the extra deck. We've got a card in the graveyard. Graveyard's going to be one up from your main deck, and then we also have a card banished. Banishment will be up from the graveyard. Down below, we have our 5 spell slots lined out. Now, as you can see, we got 2 different monsters, one on each end. Okay, so our pendulum cards are going to look a lot like this. Okay, the top half looks like a normal monster card, and the bottom half has the green border, just like our spell cards. And then you can see the little arrows down here that have a number underneath them. Okay, that's going to be your pendulum rank. So this here is Mighty Master of Endymion. He is a number 8 ranked pendulum. And then we also have our Supreme King Gate 0, who is a 0 down there at the bottom. Pendulum cards can only go in these 2 slots in our spell and trap card zones. Okay, that's the only place they can go if you're going to use them as a spell. When they are in these spots, they have a separate area here for the spells. So your bottom effect area is going to be when they're in a spell or trap card zone, and then the top area here is if they are up top in one of your monster zones. Okay, so they have 2 different effects depending on where they're at, whether they're in the spell and trap card zones or up in the main monster zones. So pretty straightforward so far. I just have these 3 cards lined out to just kind of show where the rest of your spells and traps go. The problem with Pendulum is you have only got 3 spots now to play any spells and traps. When Pendulums first came out, your pendulum zones actually sat off to the side here, so you had your pendulums here and still had your full 5 slots open. As the game progressed over the years, they moved those in, and then that really limits how much you can play with your spells and traps. Once we have our cards set up in the pendulum zones where we want them, we look at our numbers. Okay, so we have Gate 0 being a 0 and Mighty Master being a level 8. Okay, that means that we can special summon any monster in our hand or face up from the extra deck that's between those 2 numbers. Okay, so again, our levels are going to be at the top here. Those are going to be our star orbs. So we can summon a monster between 8 and 0. Now, it doesn't matter what order you put them in down here. You can be backwards as long as you have your scale set to go. I'm kind of particular, so I try to stay left to right when I play. So, with that being said, a pendulum summon counts as a special summon, but you can only do a pendulum summon once per turn. Even though it counts as a special summon, you can only pendulum summon once per turn. So, when we activate our pendulum summoning, we can summon up to 5 monsters in our hand between 0 and 8, which means it would be levels 1 through 7 that we can special summon from our hand. So when we pendulum summon, like I said, every card in our hand that we have between those 2 numbers, we can special summon out onto the field like so. Now, you don't have to put them into attack position. You could put a couple in defense position if you wanted to, depending on how you wanted to do things, you know, whichever way you're going to set up. And then this is the great thing about Pendulum, is that from here we can do a number of different things depending on what kind of deck that you're running. You can go into your link summoning, you can go into synchro summoning. If you're running fusions, you can fusion summon from here. It's just a very easy way to flood the field and then get into a lot of your extra deck summoning option. Now the problem with this, there's a massive problem like cards like Solemn Strike or Solemn Warning or Solemn Judgment, a lot of cards that negate summons. If you activate a Pendulum summon and you flood the field with 5 cards, they can hit you with a Solemn Strike and all 5 of those cards will end up being destroyed because they all count as one special summon. So every card that you would special summon off of a Pendulum summon would get destroyed if they timed it right. So that's the big downside with that. So you really have to be careful on how you play these types of setups. With that being said, when Pendulum cards are destroyed off the main monster zones, they don't go to your graveyard. Okay, they are actually going to go face up into your extra deck. So your extra deck can really start getting extremely large depending on how your Pendulum deck is set up. So if somebody did, let's say, hit this special summon with a Solemn Strike, since every single card here is a Pendulum card, every single one of these cards would then go to the extra deck face up and not our graveyard. Okay, so then our next turn, if we wanted to, we could special summon out of our extra deck. Let's say we didn't have any cards in our hand to special summon, but we have one in our extra deck. It used to be able, before they changed it with this new format, that you could special summon any cards up to 5, again, because you only have 5 main monster zones, from your extra deck, again, but that's been changed. So now we can only special 1 card from the extra deck into our extra monster zone, which is normally where we would put our link cards. Okay, so if you want to special summon back out of the extra deck, that's no problem, but you're only going to be able to special 1, and it has to be in an open extra monster zone, unless you have a link monster like Borreload in your extra monster zone. Then you can special summon out of your extra deck to one of the arrows that your link monster points to. So in that case, we could special summon there or there, again, in face-up attack or face-up defense position. It all depends on what you want to do. So let's say that we want to link summon a monster using the cards that we had Pendulum summoned out onto the field. So we're going to link summon Borreload Dragon, who's a link 4 and also requires at least 3 out of the 4 cards to be effect monsters. So we're going to take 4, and again, instead of going to the graveyard, they're going to go face up into the extra deck. We can then bring Borreload Dragon out onto the field in our extra monster zone. So even when you link summon or synchro summon or even fusion summon using Pendulum cards, they don't go to our graveyard, they go face up to the extra deck. Okay, so let's say we wanted to Xyz summon into one of our Xyz monsters. In this case, I'm going to Xyz summon into Odd Eyes Absolute Dragon. So Odd Eyes Absolute Dragon requires 2 level 7 monsters. Mighty Master Endymion is a level 7. So just like we would normally summon an Xyz, we're going to stack and then bring out Odd Eyes Absolute Dragon. Now the difference with an Xyz is when you actually discard a material to activate Absolute's effect, now it does not go to the extra deck face up. Now it will actually go into the graveyard. So it's one of the few times that a Pendulum monster will actually go to the graveyard is when it's used as, when it's discarded to activate an Xyz effect activation. That's really the only time that it will go to the graveyard. And again, if there's any cards that banish Pendulum monsters, in that case, they will actually go into banishment and not into the graveyard or the extra deck. They will go straight to banishment. So there it is, just a real quick rundown on how to play a Pendulum deck. Now this is just a very basic rundown. There's a lot of Pendulum decks out there, especially in Endymion, that run a lot of effects. I mean, you can look at Mighty Master and just see all the effects. I mean, it pretty much takes up the entire boxes of both his normal summoning as a monster and as a spell card. Some of these can get pretty crazy with the way effects run, and there's certain chains that you probably have to, that you're going to have to follow. But just as a real basic rundown, I kind of wanted to give you an idea of how Pendulum cards work. Again, we have to set our scale before we can Pendulum summon. If we only have one card in the zone, we can't do anything until we have another card put in place to finish out our scale, which in this case is 0 to 5 now. So we can only special summon cards 1 through 4 that's in between this scale. We only have 3 open slots to play our spell and trap cards. Monster zones, we can special summon from our hand into any of the monster zones that we have open. If we have a handful of monsters that meet the requirements of our scale, we can flood the field with 5 monsters. When destroyed, they don't go to the graveyard, they go face up into the extra deck, and when we special summon from the extra deck as a Pendulum summon or just a regular special summon out of the extra deck, they will come up into one of the extra monster zones where we normally put a link monster. Unless a link monster is there, then we can special summon to the appropriate arrow that it points to. And then again, if they're used as discard material for an Xyz effect activation, they will then end up going to the graveyard instead of back face up into the extra deck. So there it is, guys. That is my real basic tutorial on how to play Pendulums in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game. Every card that I've showcased today is on tcgplayer.com. If you guys have not checked out tcgplayer.com, I highly suggest doing so. I will leave a link down in my description box. Just hit that link. It'll take you straight there. And they have everything, guys. Everything for Yu-Gi-Oh!, Pokemon, Magic, Dragon Ball Z. It doesn't matter. And they have all sorts of deck supplies for you as well. Deck boxes, boards, dice, just you name it, they've got it. So I highly suggest checking that out, and every click and purchase helps support this channel at no extra cost to you. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, hit the like button, comment, let me know what you guys think. Let me know if there's anything that I missed out. I hope you guys are being safe out there. Be sure to wash those hands, and we'll see you in the next video.